Good afternoon and Salam Malaysia Madani. Thanks for tuning in. You're watching World Today with me, Olivia Nicholas. Before we begin, let's take a quick look at today's top stories.
Lebanon, Israel and the US have reached a trilateral framework agreement to withdraw Israeli forces from parts of southern Lebanon. According to the agreement, Israeli forces will remain deployed in the security zone until Hezbollah is disarmed. They will gradually withdraw outside the zone as Lebanese army forces move in. Chinese President Xi Jinping and Bangladeshi Prime Minister Tariq Rahman announced the building of a China-Bangladesh community with a shared future in the new era. Both countries attach great importance to development of bilateral ties, and Bangladesh lauds China's rapid development in a short time period. Russia and Ukraine exchanged 320 prisoners of war on Friday in the latest swap between the two sides. 160 Russian service members had been returned from territory controlled by Kyiv, while 160 Ukrainian prisoners of war were handed over in return. It was the 76th exchange between both countries since the start of the conflict. The death toll from twin earthquakes has risen on Friday to 920 in Venezuela. Tens of thousands were reported missing as a desperate and slow-moving search for survivors was boosted by international rescue teams. At least 346 buildings were damaged, including 8 hospitals, some of which had been evacuated. At least 9 were killed after a multi-story building collapsed in Lagos. The building was occupied during the incident with residents, businesses and churches inside. Victims were pulled from the debris and treated on site before taken to hospitals. The incident renewed concerns over frequent building collapses in Lagos.
Lebanon, Israel and the United States announced on Friday in Washington that they had reached a trilateral framework agreement. The framework agreement calls for the withdrawal of Israeli forces from parts of southern Lebanon. According to the agreement, the Israeli forces will remain deployed in the security zone in southern Lebanon until Hezbollah is disarmed. The official said that the Israel Defense Forces, IDF, will maintain its freedom of military operation throughout the security zone to take action at any time to eliminate any potential security threats. The official also noted that Israel and Lebanon agreed that Israel forces will gradually withdraw from 2 areas outside the security zone and Lebanese army forces will move in. Shortly after the signing of the trilateral framework agreement, Israeli leader Benjamin Netanyahu said in a recorded video statement Friday evening that the Israeli military will remain in the security zone in southern Lebanon as long as Hezbollah does not disarm. The U.S. military attacked Iran on Friday in response to an Iranian drone strike on a cargo ship in the Strait of Hormuz, throwing the fate of the interim peace deal recently agreed between the two countries into question. The U.S. Central Command released footage, it said, showed airstrikes targeting Iran. U.S. Central Command said in a statement that aircraft struck missile and drone storage locations and coastal radar sites. Iranian media said a projectile struck an area around a pier in Sirik, a city on the shores of the strategic waterway. U.S. Central Command said the American strikes against Iran were a response to unwarranted aggression against commercial shipping by Iranian forces that clearly violated the ceasefire. It described the operation as a powerful response to attack on a commercial ship that was transiting the Strait of Hormuz. Earlier, U.S. President Donald Trump hinted at the possible U.S. response to an Iranian attack on a cargo ship, saying, quote, "You will find out," when asked whether Tehran would face consequences. Ship tracking data showed fewer vessels transited the Strait of Hormuz on Friday than earlier this week, hours after a Taiwanese-operated ship was fired on by Iran.
The fact that they took a shot yesterday, actually 4, we knocked down 3, at a ship not an Allied ship, but a ship, a very expensive ship, and it was fine, but it took a little beating. They shouldn't be doing that, so you'll find out.
Will the U.S.
You'll find out.
Will the U.S. respond?
The UN shipping agency temporarily paused its voluntary scheme to evacuate hundreds of stranded ships and thousands of seafarers from the Gulf after the ship was damaged in the attack close to the Omani side of the waterway. Oil buyers have hoped to secure stocks after months of disruption caused by the Iran war after a ceasefire deal was struck between Washington and Tehran. Chinese President Xi Jinping and Bangladeshi Prime Minister Tariq Rahman jointly announced the building of a China-Bangladesh community with a shared future in the new era as the two leaders met in Beijing on Friday. During the meeting, Xi extended a warm welcome to Rahman. The Bangladeshi Premier said that both his parents were old friends and good allies of the Chinese people. They made important contributions to the development of China-Bangladesh relations in different times. Xi said China always attaches great importance to developing its relationships with Bangladesh and adheres to the policy of good neighborliness and friendship with all people of Bangladesh. Rahman hailed China's rapid development over a short period of time, adding that Bangladesh supports the four major global initiatives proposed by Xi: the Global Development Initiative, the Global Security Initiative, the Global Civilization Initiative, and the Global Governance Initiative. Rahman is paying an official visit to China from Wednesday to Friday at the invitation of Chinese Premier Li Xiang. Russia and Ukraine exchanged 320 prisoners of war on Friday in the latest swap between the two sides, as announced by Russian and Ukrainian authorities. The Russian Defense Ministry said in a statement that the 160 Russian service members had been returned from territory controlled by Kyiv, while 160 Ukrainian prisoners of war were handed over in return. According to the ministry, the returned Russian service members are receiving medical and psychological assistance in Belarus before being transferred to Russia for further treatment and rehabilitation. The ministry also said the United Arab Emirates provided humanitarian mediation that facilitated the exchange. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky said on social media that the returned Ukrainians had been held captive since 2022. Those released include members of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, the State Special Transport Service, the National Guard, and the State Border Guard Service, Zelensky said. Friday's exchange marked the 76th prisoner swap between Ukraine and Russia since 2022, when the conflict between the two countries erupted. Coming up next, AI company Anthropic announces U.S. government unblocking of powerful new Mythos 5 model.
Kecemasan, boleh saya bantu?
Hello, there's been a motorcycle accident here. Maybe an elephant ran it over.
Sir, there is fire accident at the address number 5 Jalan Tembika Shah Alam.
PGO from FRT Shah Alam, there was no fire accident here. Over.
MERS 999. Use it wisely.
The death toll from twin earthquakes rose Friday to 920 in Venezuela, where tens of thousands were reported missing as a desperate and slow-moving search for survivors was boosted by international rescue teams. Venezuelan National Assembly President Jorge Rodriguez said that at least 346 buildings were damaged, including 8 hospitals, some of which had been evacuated. A devastating pair of earthquakes, both exceeding magnitude 7, struck Venezuela on Wednesday, causing heavy casualties and widespread destruction. The Venezuelan government has introduced measures to support rescue and reconstruction efforts, and the international community has provided aid to the South American country. As part of the response, Turkey's Defense Ministry Air Force dispatched a military transport aircraft to Venezuela on Friday, carrying rescue personnel, search and rescue dogs and humanitarian supplies as part of an international response to the earthquakes that struck the South American country. The military aircraft departed from Istanbul Ataturk Airport in Istanbul. Turkey's Defense Ministry Air Force dispatched a military transport aircraft to Venezuela on Friday carrying rescue personnel, search and rescue dogs and humanitarian supplies. The deployment came as part of an international response to the earthquakes that struck the South American country. The military aircraft departed from Istanbul Ataturk Airport in Istanbul. The Turkish Ministry of National Defense is also deploying a second A400 air military transport aircraft carrying a 22-member humanitarian aid brigade team along with its equipment. According to the Turkish Disaster and Emergency Management Authority, the mission reflects Turkey's rapid international disaster response capacity and its continued commitment to providing humanitarian assistance to countries affected by natural disasters. Developments were being monitored in coordination with the Foreign Ministry and the Turkish Embassy in Venezuela. The earthquake struck Venezuela on Wednesday, leaving nearly 1,000 dead and causing widespread destruction across the country's northern coastal regions. Anthropic announced Friday that it had received authorization from the United States government to allow a small group of U.S. cybersecurity firms to access its powerful AI model Mythos 5. Access to Mythos 5 had been blocked by the U.S. authorities due to concerns about national security. Anthropic, which had had a stormy relationship with the Trump administration for months, will continue discussions with the government to expand access to Mythos 5 and make Fable 5 available again to the general public. On the 12th of June, the U.S. government abruptly forced Anthropic to cut off access to its two cutting-edge AI models after discovering vulnerabilities in the safeguards put in place to prevent misuse of the tool. The strong action against Anthropic has drawn accusations of government overreach. In an earlier clash with the White House, Anthropic angered Trump's team by refusing to allow its technology to be used for mass surveillance and autonomous weapons, leading the Pentagon to cancel its contracts with the company. Earlier Friday, Anthropic's main rival, OpenAI, launched its new AI model, ChatGPT 5.6, with restricted access and validated on a client-by-client basis by the government. At least 9 people were killed and several others injured after a multi-story building collapsed in Lagos. The Lagos State Emergency Management Agency led a multi-agency rescue operation, deploying heavy equipment to reach victims trapped under the rubble.
You can see that it's gone down to ground zero now because of the kind of work that has been done overnight. Unfortunately, we lost 9 people, and this is very sad.
Victims were pulled from the debris and treated on site before being taken to nearby hospitals. The building was occupied at the same time of the collapse, with the residents, businesses and churches inside. The incident has renewed concerns over frequent building collapses in Lagos, often linked to poor construction standards and weak enforcement. Cuba conducted military exercises across the country's central and western regions on Friday as part of its weekly Defense Day activities. According to Cuban state television, both army officers and civilians took part in the exercises. In the central province of Villa Clara, approximately 300 kilometers east of Havana, Army officers conducted tactical exercises at the Central Army Studies Center, including artillery, live fire drills and field maneuvers. In Pinar del Rio, a province roughly 200 kilometers west of the capital, civilian participants trained in grenade throwing, mine laying, marksmanship and evacuation and first aid procedures. Cuban authorities have been holding similar exercises on a weekly basis for several months, citing what they describe as ongoing threats of U.S. military action against the island. Under President Donald Trump, the United States has effectively imposed a blockade on Cuba by threatening sanctions against countries that supply it with fuel, which has caused power outages and exacerbated the worst crisis the country has faced in decades. The UN's weather agency said the heat wave that has gripped Western Europe, bringing record-breaking temperatures this week, is expected to move east over the weekend. Temperatures were peaking in France and Britain, where records for June have been broken. But in Italy, the heat was expected to intensify into the weekend, bringing the summer's first readings of 40 degrees Celsius. World Meteorological Department Organization spokesperson Claire Nulis said reports of new temperature records were coming in so frequently that officials struggled to keep up.
Western, Central and Southern Europe by the end of this month and will increasingly shift towards the Central Europe and the Balkan area. Temperatures are expected to be, are actually between 3 degrees Celsius up to 10 degrees Celsius for this time of year.
Netherlands were now under widespread red weather warnings, and Switzerland's Basel had seen a national record temperature for June of 38 degrees Celsius on Thursday.
Here's the thing.
DC's highly anticipated Supergirl has made its explosive debut, signaling a bold, gritty new direction for the franchise. Directed by Craig Gillespie and adapting Tom King's acclaimed comic book arc, the film isn't a story about a girl trying to fit in. It's a razor-sharp exploration of survival, grief, and feminine rage. The plot follows Millie Alcock as Kara Zor-El, aka Supergirl, with a young companion and together with an unlikely companion on a high-stakes cosmic road trip of vengeance and justice. Notably, Crypto, the superdog, also appears quickly, stealing the spotlight in several key scenes. Additionally, Supergirl is a beautifully scarred, wildly stylish departure from traditional cape films, proving the new DCU is not afraid to take massive narrative risk. Distributed by Warner Bros., this movie is already available on cinemas nationwide.
With Chief Owens, we'd like to give you a certificate.
The U.S. Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms and Explosives held a graduation ceremony for a new class of explosives detection K9 teams, most of whom will be deployed to cities hosting the World Cup. The ceremony took place at the National K9 Academy in Front Royal, Virginia. Among those graduating was Special Agent George Jacino of the Atlanta Field Division and his dog, Harry.
I always tell folks that that dog could have been good with anybody else. He didn't need me, but I needed him. So.
The training program begins well before handlers arrive, with dogs undergoing weeks of imprinting to recognize explosive scents. Once paired, handlers and dogs train together daily for the remainder of the 12-week course. Labradors are typically used, sourced from service animal organizations, and conditioned to work for food rewards. World Cup fever is sweeping through Los Angeles, even in the form of sweet treats. At the iconic Randy's Donuts in Inglewood, football fans are lining up to get their hands on World Cup-themed donuts. The specially decorated treats have become a fan favorite, giving supporters a fun and delicious way to celebrate the tournament. The owner said the World Cup buzz is fueling both creativity and business.
Yeah, so we're so excited for the World Cup in soccer, and there's so much energy right now surrounding it. So we thought, why not create a themed donut that's colorful and bright and something that everyone can enjoy and take to watch parties and really celebrate this exciting time for the FIFA games.
Staff at the iconic shop prepare and restock the themed donuts throughout the day as demand grows. Customers say the treats add to the excitement surrounding the match. A rare ancient lotus, successfully revived from an 800-year-old lotus seed, made its debut as the 2026 Beijing Lotus Culture Festival opened at the Lianhuachi Park on Friday. The festival features a 20,000 square meter lotus display area with over 7,000 potted lotus plants and more than 380 lotus varieties and 60 water lily species on show. The seed was tested by research institutions and found to date back approximately 800 years. A team at Lian Hua Chi Park spent more than 2 years nurturing it, bringing the living cultural relic back to life after centuries of dormancy. The festival runs from Friday through the end of August, spanning the entire summer lotus season.
That wraps up World Today this time around. Don't forget to watch the FIFA World Cup 2026 live via MyTV and RTM Click's OTT platform for free. Hashtag Satu Bola Satu Dunia. Celebrate every goal, every moment, every emotion with RTM. Until next time, I'm Olivia Nicholas, Salam Malaysia Madani, and thank you for watching.